Dalmouk and Venkatesh Palakkad, who are going to take us through and help us understand, does applying an employee experience to talent management so we can treat our employees as customers make sense? So welcome to the two of you. Thank you very much for being here. So I'm going to start off by asking a question, and maybe Venkatesh, I could ask you this question. How is the role of a talent manager changing in response to the needs to create a positive employee experience?
Thanks, Todd, for the intro. And yes, the speakers who came before really spoke about how expectations are changing from employees. When we have the generation, the internet generation employees coming into the fold, the way they look at HR, they look at training, they look at work, is all becoming very, very different. And they get tremendously guided by the kind of interactions they have with the other things in their life. It could be ordering food, it could be going to a cinema, it could be watching a movie or doing something else. So this entire thing is also coming into workplace, and they would expect systems to kind of interact and kind of work with them on a similar basis. So from a corporate point of view, we have not really caught up with this kind of a user experience as far as corporate side is concerned. We're still a little traditional. We still work on large, heavy ERPs and not very user-friendly systems, screens, interactions, employee service systems, and stuff like that. So more and more engagement of employees into these things would happen if you are able to give them a better user experience, a better learner experience, or a better employee experience from a system and an HR perspective. So the real experience comes from what people do and how they behave, and not from companies' processes and systems. So my take is, yes, we need to focus a lot on what they do and how they behave, and how we could shape that using nimble, attractive technologies. So that's how I look at it.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for coming. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Hamad, Dalmouk, Talent Acquisition Director. I work with Qatar Foundation with Human Capital Team. Actually, this event is important for us as HR professionals to learn from each other, learning the best practices, best processes, and I like to use the word of collaboration, which one of our presenters mentioned. Because if we really collaborate as sectors together towards having the practices or the HR best practices, this will really help us. Coming back to your question, Todd, when it comes to the best experience for our employees, treating them as our customers, in my opinion, actually, the employee experience starting from the stage where he or she discovered the job, or starting from where they apply in the position through the life cycle. Of course, it's important, having the integrated systems, but it doesn't necessarily, the technology can be, which I know it will come with in our discussion later, usage of technology, we need to also manage it carefully towards, when we reduce the service and when we reduce the processes, which I really liked, Sarah's added one great point, is there are a lot of processes as operations, but if you look at how we can automate these processes, so the employees can focus on other aspects within the HR initiative and how we can enhance that. Probably, when I have self-services as an employee, I have self-services which are quick and really provided me with the HR services that I need, that will be brilliant. If I have also engagement is very important. And to me, engagement is not only a simple satisfaction towards these activities we have. Engagement is how we ensure that employees are passionate, commitment about what they do, and I hope that this answers this question.
Great, thank you. Now, as we take a look at, maybe the employee experience overall, and maybe taking a look at the employee life cycle, maybe you can both talk a little bit about what are the best methods and strategies for engaging employees throughout an entire employee life cycle. So at the point in time that they're a candidate, at the point in time we're recruiting them, at the point in time they work for us, ongoing development, and maybe even as they leave the organization. Maybe you could both share your thoughts in regards to those different stages or phases.
Absolutely. In fact, tomorrow in my speech, I'm basically focusing on this in detail. But
so we'll get a preview now. Then.
Probably a little bit of a preview. The way I look at it is that right from the time an employee looks at an organization, he's not even an employee, he looks at an organization from outside. From that time itself, it's very important to create a positive experience for that employee to come into the organization, and also give them a semblance of what the culture is about. So they could sense it by looking at the way they interact, their website. There's so much of information in social media today. In websites like Glassdoor, etc., about your own organization. So it's so important that employees come in with a fairly good idea about what the organization is about. What do you pay people? What are the benefits? What are the pitfalls? How do they need to meander through the system? They come with a lot of this information. So to some extent, we could mold this. Today, recruitment systems have become so good and so fast growing. In my prediction, in the next 6-7 years, I think your recruitment department would be almost 85-90% robotized. You would have very, very little input from people. The rest all would be taken care by systems. I can see it happening. I work with a very, very sophisticated talent management system. So I see the amount of research and work which is going into it. So employee acquisition, talent acquisition is one area where there's a lot of change happening. The other one is learning. So when an employee comes into the organization, I would call it as the Uberization of human resource. Okay, so there's a lot of Uber kind of services which, as HR, we need to offer to our employees. So learning can't be just what the employer wants you to do. There's a lot of pull learning. I also would want to learn what I want to learn. I would want to use what I see in YouTube. I want to interact with people, comment on what others learn. So are we providing a nice social learning platform for employees to interact, express themselves, probably even contribute? I've seen this. I want to contribute a video. I want to contribute a small write-up, a small blog which I've written in my own blog. I want to share it with other employees. Are we giving opportunities for employees to do these things? If you do this, then you are definitely improving user experience. That's from a learning perspective. From a performance perspective, are we giving opportunities for employees and managers to have constant, regular conversation? How much of technology are we using today in managing performance? Do we use the easily available technology of a mobile to give feedback? Once again, simple, easy systems are available where a manager goes, sees something, he could give very instant feedback, take a picture, give him a pat on the back, or probably give a complaint, say that this went well, this did not go well. Easy things to do. Once again, we are looking again at user experience. Then looking at engagement, as another piece. Instead of doing once a year engagement surveys, you had mentioned it in your in opening remarks. Are we looking at pulse? Are we looking at what is a set of employees across the company, probably across division, at the moment, at that day, at that week thinking, and how is that impacting their productivity? what are we doing with the data? Are we able to generate heat maps and then do very, very clear, focused OD interventions on every slice of employees you have in terms of, managing it, managing their expectations. So there is so much of things which in HR which can get impacted by what is happening across and with technology and with the kind of enhanced user experience which we could be able to give employees with what's available today. Once again, please don't get me wrong. Technology is not always required to do all this. Even without technology, even without using technology, a lot of this Uberization, the way I would call it, the Uberization of HR is very much possible. Yeah, you need to be a little more creative. You can use a lot of things available in the public domain and in the general domain, which doesn't even have a fee to kind of implement these things. But if you don't do this, then you're not going to really have an engaged employee, because the current employees are those with those 5 C's. They're highly connected. They want things on their hand immediately. So this is how I would see how user experience is going to impact various processes in your business.
Thank you. In my view, with the HR systems, actually it is with the systems in the organization in general. I believe before even having the systems to provide the needs of the organization, it's very important to understand the culture, whether the state where the organization is there. So you do have an understanding of having the most aspects that you need for the employees. Like, for example, technology in some region could be very advanced, as I just said when we have the discussion here outside. When I highlight that technology in the US could be different for the usage where the people are using it, when the people here are maybe having different systems or different processes. Understanding the culture is very important, because there are some automated processes or technology that we can utilize in our organization, but for some reason could be not helpful, but the other way around. That is why, to me, there are other certain services that you need really human intervention to ensure that I really, like talent acquisition, of course, reports could solve some of the stages of recruitment, but at the same time, related to selection criteria, related to meeting the candidate. Sometimes disqualification in these nice systems, disqualification of questions related to the job description, could even lead to having or losing a good candidate who really wanted to work with the organization. That's a simple example. Same thing applies to performance management, training needs. I was happy to share this example. We have a lot of e-learning systems related to training, but do we really have time that we can have our technology instead of using, because there are other aspects. We have YouTube and other social networks that we are busy with. So e-learning is very important, I agree, but still people need, to me, in my humble opinion, people need time to get used to it. So what I'm trying to say to conclude with this question is HR systems based on each or any of the organization in any sectors, it's very important to understand the culture, to be transparent to our employees with the processes, because employees, as customers, they need to know the stages, they need to have a quick action, whether it is manual or through technology. That's the most important elements to ensure that we have an engaged employee.
Thank you. Now, as we think about technology, and both of you share technology, your Uber reference and the continued technology reference, I can't help but wonder, as we look at incorporating technology, many organizations, start to, use technology to test drive the work experience that people are going to have. But is there a way to, incorporate a gamification type of approach so that people can experience the culture before they decide to come and work for us? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, once again, as I said, what's happening in the social media space, which keeps all of us hooked and engaged and constantly, upping our screen time, could also be done at a on a corporate side by making it more intuitive, more interesting, more gamified. Once again, a lot of social learning, in implementation of social learning in organizations could also lead to companies doing leaderboards, companies doing badges, recognitions, which people could socially display in their social media accounts. They could say that I got this badge which I got for doing this. Today you have a Fitbit which gives you a badge every time you do 20,000 steps of walking, and you are able to proudly share that in your Facebook to say that, yeah, I did 20,000, or you could compete among a set of communities. So something of that sort is even possible within HR by gamifying things what you do. By interestingly applying the theory of gamification, you could say that you'd like to give your reward a badge, simple things, not costing a lot of money. So the same concept could be brought into a corporate setup. So that's one aspect of looking at it. The other aspect of looking at gamification is, once again, we are dealing with the generation who are Xbox generation, who are highly skilled in playing games and highly skilled in learning information through playing games, etc. So to what extent are we incorporating gamified learning is also important. Today, using VR, using simple gaming techniques where you play a game and then you learn. In fact, we have been doing a lot of content development work for a bank where they play. So the more you learn, the more you get points, and it's like you cross different levels to attain a particular stage. So while passing different levels, you also learn. So it's about product training. So we are giving product training about different product ranges which a bank offers. So if you want to kind of learn something, then you need to crack clues, which is nothing but clues in what the product would offer. So we have used gamification, and like that there are so many examples how interestingly we could use gamification in making learning interesting and making the general HR employee interaction interesting.
Thanks. When we think about this, though, you've shared some great experiences in terms of more of the technical learning component. How could we actually use gamification maybe to have people experience more of the softer cultural component of an organization to help get them, attracted or interested to come and work for our organization? Hamad, maybe you can talk about that a little bit as well.
With regards to this point, actually, particularly, I think by sharing the awareness in terms of the tips that we can have, so we can have the usage of the technology here. Part to what I'm trying to say is, of course, there are different aspects that we can cover with having that part with a quick action for employee when they, as I said, there are some services of HR could really have quick impact when we use them through the technology processes instead of the manual. However, like given said, why I have highlighted culture as an example is, for example, I really like the idea of video interview, which we explored in our organization previously, where I believe in MENA or the countries that we do have, they use, some organizations they do use it. However, some other organizations they might feel it part of hesitant, whether, for example, either candidates would not. They don't like to have a video on themselves, And that's one of the aspects. Like, there are people who would love to do it, but the others still, I think, maybe they need more time with regards to that. Other than that aspects, I think there are, in addition to technology, Todd, it's important to ensure like work-life balance, for example. If organization is giving the idea or enhancing the procedures or the policies for employees to work, for example, remotely, or having their, doesn't necessarily to be physically in the office, but they can still work given that they are connected either through phone or laptop or any other device that they could work with, or having e-meeting instead of having a physical meeting. So, of course, with technology there are many aspects that we can cover, but as I said, it's always good to tailor it with our business needs.
Right. Thank you.
I have a slightly different take on culture. How do we manage culture when it comes to gamification? What I'm seeing, especially I have young kids who grew up in one culture. Today they've gone to another culture, etc. What I'm increasingly seeing is that among young people, I think the barrier of culture is kind of going away. So what I see is the kind of interaction, the kind of things they do is kind of becoming common across geographies, irrespective of where people live today. Okay, everybody sees a certain kind of stuff because it's all globally available today. There's no restriction. So I can see that a lot of commonality in terms of what people do is evolving. So we could probably push the envelope a little bit more and say that we would do this, we would adopt this approach irrespective of whichever geographies we operate from. I'm not saying we need not be culturally sensitive, but then I think we can be a little more experimental, a little more adventurous in terms of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, because I think that barrier is slowly going away. So we could do that a little more, so that we are consistent in terms of what we're doing across geographies. That's what I'm seeing.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. As we look at maybe another aspect of this customer experience versus this employee experience, I guess another question that comes to mind is, how do we apply a customer experience strategy to talent management, and what role does HR play? And maybe as part of that question, both of you could talk a little bit about what you think about perhaps maybe even segmenting employees, just like how many organizations segment their customers. Do you think segmenting employees is a good approach for us to take? Maybe looking at high-value employees, mid-value employees, low-value employees, just like many organizations look at high-value clients, mid-value clients, and low-value clients. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Thank you. Yes, of course, with having the experience here is with the employee, treating the employee as our customers. As we said at the beginning here, it's very important to ensure that we, first of all, achieve the business need, the employee as our individuals who contributes to our organization objectives and working with us, also achieving their needs from talent aspects. Most importantly here is the experience that we have within HR from talent is also important to have as the department support as a business partner with the line manager of the employee to have their support of identifying whether a business needs or a training needs, that's required for the desired objective of the department. So identifying them as business partner is very important. The other aspect here is for your question of the segment. I think with some organization, of course, when they have a high performance employee, there should be, for example, a succession planning needs where they identify the growth of the position, which is part of ensuring that we retain the employee. However, it's not only important that sometimes when you have a mid-level employees also having the training needs to them, it even could lead to have them a high flyer or high performance with the required learning. Learning doesn't necessarily need to be a training that is provided with a training in classes, even learning at workplace with different opportunities. There are other initiatives required within training for the segment. So segmenting is good in terms of identifying the needs we have. To me, for example, maybe some of my colleagues who's here, they remember, I really encourage, for example, in Qatar Foundation is internal recruitment, which really is important for our employees if we have an opportunity to elevate the employee within the organization to have a growth opportunity instead of having external. Although we always also balancing of having the right talent. One last point, also attracting the right talent. Some right talent in other organizations could not be maybe fit in the organization based on the different needs. That's also one of the aspects, because you could have a strong talent in different field, but for that he could because there are different aspects related to the organization when we provide the services that we need. Thank you.
Venkatesh?
Yeah, your question reminds me of a nice quote which I came across, and I just wrote it and kept it, and I think it's very relevant to mention it here. A very nice quote by John Burson. He mentions that remember that customer experience is dependent on employee experience. Every time we make employees' life better, we better serve customers. So it's such a relevant quote when we are saying that, how does employee experience impact customer experience? It does impact customer experience. There's also a very, very famous book written by the HR director of a large multinational conglomerate called as HCO, called as Employee First, where he talks about how their concept of keeping employee first in terms of whatever they did ensured that they became successful in business. So yes, on the second part of your question, I am a firm believer in segmentation, because especially when it comes to HR initiatives, OD initiatives, learning initiatives, if you don't segment, then you're following a one-size-fits-all policy, which could be disastrous. Because in an organization, we have people who are from say 60 years to 20 years. That's one look at it. The other way of segment is what Hamad mentioned in terms of their capabilities and potential. So are we doing a 9-box or an N-box analysis of potential versus performance, and then placing people in different buckets, and then for each of those buckets we look at different interventions. I'm a firm believer in that kind of an intervention, because I was recently talking to the global rewards director of the pharma conglomerate Novartis. It's 160,000 employees across the group. So he was telling me that they follow the employee segmentation very, very strongly. So they have their critical talents. They have the critical talents, which is their top priority. So among the Middle East region, which is about 6,000 employees, his critical talents are about 70 people. So he says the 70 people are like, in fact, I look at their track their activities, I look at what they do, what we can do for them almost on a day-to-day basis. Right? And the next segmentation they do is their hypos, people with tremendous potential who could be across hierarchy, could be at different seniority levels, but very, very high potential. So they are looked at very, very differently. The kind of inputs given to them, the kind of challenges given to them, the kind of expectations which is set on them in terms of KRAs, etc., are very, very different to the rest of the people. Yeah. If you don't do this, what will happen is a lot of high-performing employees are very impatient in terms of climbing up the ladder, going across their knowledge arena in terms of doing different things, etc. If we follow the rule of this is what we do, they don't want to wait. If you're not giving them that experience, once again, if they can't experience it with your company, they would rather move and experience it somewhere else. So we are at the risk of losing good talent if we do not segment. And we do not segment and then use modified, varied approaches for each of these segments in terms of whatever we do. That's how I look at it.
Hamad, Venkatesh, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, and thank you very much for sharing your thoughts in our important question here, really taking a look at, does applying an employee engagement experience to talent management, and looking at treating our employees as customers make sense. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. I appreciate it.